racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top
Oh my God!
Oh.
Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?
After 9 weeks of epic, enthralling online racing, the Circuit Excel eSeries concludes tonight at Britain's iconic Silverstone racetrack. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lockie Mansell. Welcome to SimSpeed TV for the 10th and final round of the Circuit Excel eSeries presented by Shannon's Insurance. Joining me in commentary tonight, it's a very good evening to David Haynes. And David, this round is worth double points. However, Ethan Griggold still has a pretty commanding margin at the top of the points table with 2 races remaining.
Yeah, g'day. He certainly does. He's been a picture of consistency, more pole positions than anyone else, more wins than anyone else. And unfortunately, some of his biggest rivals, likes of Jack Boyd, Ben Smith, have started to fall away in the last couple of rounds. And he has a very, very tidy points lead coming into this championship. And you can hardly imagine a circumstance where he wouldn't be able to seal it tonight. Weird things happen in racing, but he certainly has a very, very comfortable buffer ahead of 2 sprint rounds here at Silverstone. 2 sprint races for this round at Silverstone.
So, looking at the points table, 2,136 points for Ethan Griggold, plays 1,696 points for his nearest rival, Ben Bargwana. Doing a bit of number crunching on that, basically the situation is that for Ethan Griggold to lose the championship, he would have to finish outside the top 23 in both races. Ben Bargwana would have to win both races. So provided Ethan Griggold finishes in the top 23 in race 1 tonight, he will wrap up the title with a round to spare. Other things to keep an eye on include the best South Australian competitor, because there is actually a prize up for grabs for the highest placed South Australian competitor in the series. And that is some tyres, a couple of tyres which will go the way of that competitor. And at the moment, it's Aaron Oliver who is in the box seat. In fact, having a look at the points table, the only driver really able to threaten Aaron Oliver for that South Australian competitor honour would be Jack Boyd, who's back in 7th position on the points table, with Aaron Oliver being 3rd outright as things stand at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of points on the line here, though. I mean, if you had, a couple podiums from Jack Boyd and Aaron Oliver didn't have a good one, could still flip the other way. But certainly, you race all 9 rounds coming towards this to try and build that buffer, to try and put yourself in a position where everyone else has to work harder to take it away from you.
So we are obviously closing in on a return to real-life Excel racing. The next round of the South Australian Excel Series will be the annual Ryan Panowich Memorial Trophy, which will be held on the 1st and 2nd of August. Elsewhere, the first real-life Excel race since we went into lockdown was held at Sydney Motorsport Park this morning as part of round 4 of the MRA, the Motor Racing Australia Series. And that race was won by the duo of Anton De Pasquale and Brock Feeney in an entry that was being managed by the man himself, Roland Dane from Triple Eight Race Engineering. But great to see the Excels back on track in real life.
Yeah, certainly. You can feel the anticipation amongst a lot of our competitors here that they are itching, ready to get back out on circuit. It's been a fun 10 weeks of this championship. It's definitely let some drivers from different states battle against each other and compare. But the dust gathering in the garage, I'm sure, will be calling a lot of these drivers back out to the circuit.
So let's talk about some of the drivers that are in the field during this warm-up session. Young Caleb Hydes is part of the field tonight, which is good to see. Caleb Hydes has had a fair bit of experience on the iRacing platform in various types of cars. Ethan Grigault for the Evolution Racing team, of course, is part of the field. We do have Ben Bargwana in the field. We do have Lachlan Manif in the field as well. And also Chelsea Angelo, who will be live streaming on her Twitch feed tonight. She's had some good results throughout this series too. Great to have her back on the track.
Yeah, you certainly can't overlook her performance at Monza, and I think there's some characteristics of this old layout of Silverstone here that sort of reminiscent in a way. As you see, she goes down the Hangar Straight, which is very fast in these cars here as well. Another place where the high speeds and big stops might help her.
Riding on board with Chelsea Angelo at the moment. Now, in terms of the circuit layout that we're using tonight, it is the pre-2008 layout of the Silverstone circuit that the competitors will be tackling tonight, but still an interesting mixture of different types of corners, and some of our favourite and most famous corners, such as Maggots and Beckett's, are still part of this layout, and those very high-speed direction changes obviously going to test the precision of these drivers, but also will take their toll on the tyres, and tyre management has very much been a factor throughout this Circuit Excel East series.
Yeah, and once again, very hot track temperatures it looks like for this race. We've had in excess of 40-degree track temps, I think, almost every race all season long, and that is really where the TCR tyres can start to hurt, especially the enduro rounds we had. 30 minutes, though, it can still be the case that you work your tyres a bit too hard and they start to give up some of their life, some of their performance. Warm-up carries on. Ethan Grigault shows why he has been the class of the field. He's got the fastest time in warm-up, more than a second clear of everyone else. When we get towards the grid in a couple of minutes' time, we'll also see how he performed in qualifying, because we had, once again, the 4 qualifying groups and then amalgamated all of their separate times. So not all of the drivers on track together, but eventually all of the times are collated into what makes our grid for race 1. And of course, it'll be an interesting grid for race 2 as well, Lockie.
Indeed it will. And probably worth mentioning as well that that second race with the top 10 reverse grid format has always produced plenty of action. Not only that, but obviously while this might be the last round of the Circuit Excel series, people who enjoy racing these Audi RS3 TCR cars do have plenty of other opportunities to do so on the iRacing platform, including the Wednesday night Turbo Touring Car series, which is hotly contested by a lot of these cars. I know that with life starting to go back to normal and people typically engaged in social activities on Saturday nights, that going iRacing is not necessarily a priority for lots of people, but don't despair, because there are still weeknight opportunities to race these cars.
No doubt. So, half a minute away from the end of warm-up here, and we'll get racing for race 1. 300 points up on the board, up for grabs in race 1. It is possible for Ethan Grigault to seal the championship in race 1 of 2 tonight.
Indeed it is. Again, all that Ethan Griggold has to do is finish inside the top 23, which basically means that provided he keeps it on the black stuff and doesn't make any mistakes, he will be looking very good for the championship victory. So the warm-up is complete, so not too far away from a race start here for what will be the final round of the Circuit Excel eSeries at the Silverstone circuit. Here's your grid positions. Ethan Griggold on pole. Dylan Burst joining him on the front row. Then it's Jordan Ross and Tommy Saunter-Chun out of positions 3 and 4. Lee Harrison lines up in 5th position. Lachlan Manif is 6th. Aaron Oliver and Dale Carpenter are next, followed by Darren Whittington. Ben Bargwana a lot further back than he needs to be in position 10 if he's going to challenge Ethan Griggold for the championship.
27 cars for our grid here is rounded out by Caleb Hydes, Joel Johnson, Sam Christensen, Nicholas Scaife, Chelsea Angelo, Chris Donnelly, Peter Clark, Cassandra Hoare, Jonathan Bykoff, Riley Beggs, James Zeitz, and we've got a video from him to watch later, Edward Mitchell, Harry Tompkins, Ryan Bell, Ethan Fitzgerald, Isaac Sparks, and Jordan Caruso. Revs are about to rise, Lockie. We are about to get racing. Standing start for race 1.
Indeed it is. Watch out for Jordan Caruso coming through from the rear of the field. We know that he's very quick. Lights out and away we go. 30 minutes up on the clock and the final round of the Circuit Excel eSeries is underway. It's our pole sitter, Ethan Griggold, who leaps away to an early lead. Jordan Ross moving up into 2nd position, but being challenged on the outside by Tommy Saunter-Chun. The two cars make contact at turn 1, and it's Saunter-Chun who gets forced wide. It was a pretty slow start from Dylan Burst as well. He drops back a few positions at the start. Excellent start from Lee Harrison, who's actually moved forward a few positions as well. And you can see that there's cars battling and running side by side. A bit further back, and Aaron Oliver cops a tap. That will check up the field behind. A couple of cars having to dart to the right to avoid rear-ending the slowing car of Aaron Oliver. And it's Caleb Hydes who gets the run past Aaron Oliver as they head down the Hangar Straight.
So, poor start there for Dylan Burst. Got swamped by 2 rows of the grid before they even got towards turn 1. And then you saw Aaron Oliver get pushed sideways, and then the whole train of cars behind swallowing him up as they almost go 3 wide here. What a view from Dale Carpenter.
Oh, bang! And Dale Carpenter getting hard into the side of the Joel Johnson Autobahn TCR car that he was battling against there. So, Dale Carpenter, plenty of aggression there as he headed through Club Corner. So the positional battles are on in earnest, and Ben Bargwana cops a tap, and that is going to send the number 95 Gippsland Courier's car into a big slide, and Ben Bargwana falls down to 15th position. The championship challenge is looking less and less likely for Benny Bargwana. A bit further back in the pack, we see Nicholas Scaife involved in a bit of a battle as well. Let's go back and have a look at a motive simulation replay and see what happened to Nick Scaife, and also I think to probably Ben Bargwana as well.
Well, that's the hip check there between Dale Carpenter and Joel Johnson, and put a bit of damage on both cars. That was a big hip and shoulder. Football's back, apparently. Now we do look at Ben Bargwana. This is going into the Abbey chicane. Gets a dive and a tap there. And I think he was just a little ginger on the brakes compared to Whittington there, because Whittington completely made the corner, having come in a lot deeper on the brakes, and that has all made a little bit more carnage behind as well.
Yeah, not happy times whatsoever there for Ben Bargwana. He's been shuffled well back down the order. This is Chelsea Angelo copping a whack as well. And that was Nicholas Scaife who got turned around and collected. I think that might have been Jordan Caruso in the second of the Evolution Racing Team cars that was involved and might have copped a bit of damage there as well. Keep in mind that Jordan Caruso was starting this race off at the back of the grid. Jordan Ross sitting in 2nd position. And the battles continue in and around the top 5. Lachlan Manif, Sam Christensen, Darren Whittington all going at it. Manif sitting there in 6th position, but having to fend off a pretty concerted attack from Sam Christensen at the moment.
You can't understate how difficult these cars are to drive on cold tyres, which is how they are for the first lap and a half or so. They're just now starting to get more confidence underneath them, but for that first lap, everyone was on ice skates despite how hot the track was.
Getting temperature into the tyres early in the race is one challenge. Managing the tyre wear throughout the 30-minute race without wearing the tyres out too quickly and leaving yourself with no rubber left to fight with at the end is another challenge altogether.
Good move by Hydes here. He went round the outside of bridge to hold it the inside into the next couple of corners of this final complex of the lap. So Hydes has gone and picked up a spot there, just being so brave around the outside of bridge.
Yeah, really good racecraft there for Caleb Hydes, and he's moved up to 9th position ahead of Joel Johnson. As we say, Sam Christensen up the inside of Lachlan Maneef. Contact into turn 1, and Lachlan Maneef gets sent firing off the racetrack at a massive rate of knots. In the Game of Gear Directs Legere sim racing entry, keeps the boot into it and gets back onto the racetrack in 10th position. But that was a scary, scary moment for Lachlan Maneef there in a very fast part of the racetrack.
Yeah, Cops is super fast, super committed, and just a little tap really sent the back out skating for Maneef, cost him a couple positions there.
So remember, you really want to be finishing this race inside the top 10 because race 2 is a top 10 reverse grid race. So if you can be inside the top 10, you will benefit from the inversion when we get to race 2. Jonathan Bykoff, we are watching at the moment, in 2nd position at the moment. Sorry, 12th position, I beg your pardon. Battling it out with Peter Clark. There is Jordan Caruso continuing to punch forward as well. And in fact, Caruso is going to get another spot here, moving up the inside of James Zates. We've seen some really good drives from Jordan Caruso in previous rounds. He's not done the whole series. He's not a championship contender. But at the events that he has participated in, he has been very, very quick.
A little bit further up the order here, you can see Caleb Hyde starting to range up to the back of Aaron Oliver and Sam Christensen. Oliver, one of those drivers who would very, very much like to finish in the top 10. He's going to have to go door-to-door with Christensen for it. He goes out well wide, and this might be Hyde's opportunity as well if he can hold it around the outside here or chop back in for a late apex. Just keeping the nose in around the outside, but it ends up being a foregone conclusion. What a great X-ray vision camera we had for 1 second there. Just shows how close they are racing. Hydes, I think, was pushing Aaron Oliver along for a little bit there.
And so we got so close to the back of Aaron Oliver that we did have X-ray vision inside Aaron Oliver's car. Both cars right out over the AstroTurf there through Cops, turn number 1. It's one of those corners where you can actually get pinged for exceeding the track limits too many times. Keep in mind, of course, that Aaron Oliver was also playing the championship game in terms of trying to make the best of the South Australian competitors to get that fresh set of federal tyres, thanks to SA Motorsport Tyres, who are sponsoring that award. And actually, Aaron Oliver's chances of that award are pretty good too, because Jack Boyd, who was his main South Australian rival, is not running tonight, as we say. Aaron Oliver getting up the inside of Sam Christensen, moving back up into 6th position. We had a shot there as well of Ben Bargwana in the pits getting some damage repaired. So Ben Bargwana has dropped all the way down to 24th position. And championship-wise, the pendulum is swinging firmly in favour of Ethan Griggold at this point.
Ben Bargwana would very much love a safety car at some point in this race, but I think his chances of that are quite slim at a Grand Prix circuit like this. Some of the smaller, more compact and closer spaced circuits might have been possible, but it's all looking like good and fair racing out there, and I hope we're green all the way for both our races.
So just as we've become accustomed to seeing all season long, there's been these really, really good battles in the mid-pack, particularly towards the tail end of the top 10 seems to be the zone where we see a lot of the action, particularly in race 1, where you've got the drivers fighting to try and benefit from the inversion in race number 2. And this has been going on for a while now between Caleb Hyde, Sam Christensen.
They're into
Joel
each other
Johnson.
behind that. My goodness, who is that coming together? Peter Clark and Riley Beggs, I think, might have run out of space coming towards the finish line. My goodness, I had that on a second screen here. We'll see if we wind it back. Indeed, we will. So, got Zeitz on the inside there. Behind him, Beggs and Clark. And the two of them are going for some space through the final corner and just get into each other. Neither of them want to lift.
You know what? That was a bit silly there. They both needed to be giving each other a bit more room on the exit of that final corner. I have to say that was a pretty unnecessary incident between those two.
It's going to be an interesting one to watch from Cassandra Hall's perspective as the two drivers go into the wall and each other in front of her. Which way do you go? Which way do you go? She keeps it pinned and picks up 2 spots. That was opportunistic and very, very brave.
And great reflexes as well. She did exceptionally well to miss those cars and also to make up 2 positions. It was high risk stuff there and it could have ended in tears, but full credit to Cassandra Hall because she gained basically 2 bonus positions. Here comes Jordan Caruso attacking on the inside of Joel Johnson. This is for the final spot in the top 10, so this is potentially for the inversion position here. Jordan Caruso, who started this race at the back of the grid, is on the attack at the moment. Bit of a smaller field tonight in this final Excel eSeries round than what we've become accustomed to. So Jordan Caruso hasn't had to make up as many positions as what he might have had to do in some of the earlier rounds, but still been a pretty good drive to be just outside the top 10 at this stage.
That's where we were looking earlier. Whoa, Lachlan Manif using all of the runoff and then some. And quite sure, has that allowed him to get alongside Caleb Hydes? It has not. Hydes taking a wider entry here. Maybe going to try to set up the run onto the hanger straight in the slipstream of Sam Christensen. And he looks like he's going to get a better run than Christensen, who just pushed too wide in the right-hander there. Has no slipstream off anyone in front of him and is definitely going to come under pressure from the Eclipse-looking car of Caleb Hydes here. Hydes moves to the inside for Stowe. They both brake at about the same time. The brake lights tell the story, and Hydes nearly bringing in some of the side-by-side contact, unable to complete the move, and Manif on the grass there, 2 tyres in the grass, in the end has to back out of that one. But this is a cracking little 5-car battle here for 7th on back. You can see Caruso has pinned himself to the back of this battle as well.
Sam Christensen's become a bit of a cork in the bottle here. He doesn't quite seem to have the pace of the cars that are queuing up behind him, but at the moment they haven't actually been able to find a way past. So it's formed up a 5-car conga line of cars that are all battling for position.
In his final complex of corners, he's going to dart to the inside is Caleb Hydes, but then the next corner, also a left-hander, and whoa, out wide goes Joel Johnson. He's going to lose out a spot as Caruso grabs one off him.
Yeah, so that drops Joel Johnson outside the top 10, and Caruso's going to gain another spot here as he slices up the inside of Lachlan Manif. Manif, in fact, gets forced very wide out over the exit AstroTurf there at the final corner. Jordan Caruso on a real charge now, but he's got to slow down, so he's exceeded the track limits, Jordan Caruso. So that hard work that he was doing, he will have to do it again. He drops back outside the top 10 and loses position to Joel Johnson as well.
Yeah, we kind of saw how much he took of Woodcut corner right at the end of the lap there, and in the end he was too generous with trying to shortcut the run onto the pit straight and keep his momentum up, and he's had to drop back a couple spots. Now he's in line to go and grab them again, lining up Joel Johnson once again. Coming down the hanger straight and towards Stowe. He's going to pull to the inside, and he's been very good at getting the car stopped and turned as it just gets his nose down the inside. He's going to get that one spot back. and he has not dropped too far from Hydes, Christensen, and Manif in front.
Here's the battle for positions 3 and 4 between a couple of drivers who featured towards the pointy end of the field in a lot of the Excel eSeries rounds. Dylan Burse, who's been a regular podium finisher in this series, and Tommy Saunter-Chun, who was a race winner at Phillip Island earlier in the season. In the endurance races, we see some Morse code from Sam Christensen on the rear bumper of Lachlan Manif, who just got ahead of him. Jordan Caruso up the inside of Sam Christensen as well, but Christensen fights back on the inside. Caruso will have the better corner exit speed though, and he'll swing around the outside to take that position away. Moves up into 9th spot in the Evolution Racing Team Panther Fuels entry.
Yep, he's been no stranger to getting the elbows out and moving up some positions so far this race, and we're not even halfway. Caruso is up 18 positions. There's not 18 positions left for him to climb as he gets a much better exit than Manif onto the pit straight. This time, I'm sure he's not going to cut those bollards on the right-hand side. He gives them plenty of room. He's got the inside to Manif, who's been taking Cop's corner very wide all race long and parking it on the apex. I think that's almost job done from Caruso as Manif continues to fight him, refuses to give up. But it's just got no overlap, and Cop's a tap on the way into Maggots as well.
All getting pretty feisty there, and Lachlan Manif's going to lose some momentum as Sam Christensen gets back down the inside of him.
Zeitz was in the wall. No, Zeitz is good. Never mind.
So Lachlan Manif back on the bubble again in position number 10 with Joel Johnson just behind. Becomes a fairly aggressive heated battle when you've got cars battling for that final inversion position as Manif sends it back down the inside of Christensen, and Joel Johnson follows him through. So Christensen's now the one who drops outside of the top 10 positions, and it's Joel Johnson who is on the bubble in position 10.
And as they've battled each other, they've lost a little bit of time. Jonathan Bykoff's ranged up onto the back of them as well. Looking at the replay here, this move, it was robust, and you can see exactly how Christensen lost a bit of the time and a bit of the momentum there as Manif made sure the door was held open for himself.
Fair bump play on. There was clearly a big overlap. Manif was well up the inside. Aaron Oliver coming under pressure from Darren Whittington here. Jordan Caruso, another move up the inside of Caleb Hydes. He caught Caleb Hydes unbelievably quickly. Of course, at the beginning of the lap, he was more than a second back, but he's made up that time and he's passed Caleb Hydes with ease. So the way that Jordan Caruso's sliced his way up through the field has been a sight to behold as we ride on board with Jonathan Bykoff. He's now a chance at a top 10 as well, with the way that these cars have all bottlenecked nose to tail with one another. Oh, Lachlan Manif way off the racetrack at turn 1. Keeps the boot into it, gets back on.
He's just taking the same techniques he applied at Spa and using it for turn 1 here today. Not everyone else is quite so bold, but Bykoff, as you said, sitting in 12th there, must really fancy being able to pick off 2 positions and get himself into that top 10 inversion. I swear I saw James Zeitz in the wall momentarily a lap ago. Now he's on pit road, so maybe I wasn't imagining that one, but on the live pictures here, Manif all the way across the hangar straight, trying to block out Joel Johnson behind. Sandra Hoare had a bit of a slide in the background there as well, lost some of her momentum.
Chelsea Angelo is on screen at the moment, but she's actually a lap down at the moment because she was in for a pit stop earlier on in the race to get some damage fixed. Tommy Saunter-Chun and Dylan Burse continuing their squabble over positions 3 and 4. Lachlan Manif still holding out these cars. Jonathan Bykoff looking to the inside of Sam Christensen. I reckon Bykoff will fancy his chances of a top 10 result here as Christensen looks to the inside of Manif. So Joel Johnson's got ahead of Lachlan Manif. I reckon that Manif might have cooked his tyres a bit here He has been racing pretty hard and pretty aggressively, and right now he just seems to be struggling a bit for pace compared to some of the cars that he's around. He really needs to hold on to that top 10 position, Lachlan Manif, because, like I've said on several occasions in these broadcasts, the difference between finishing 10th and finishing 11th in race 1 is the difference between starting 1st and starting 11th in race 2.
Looking here, this is the battle for 3rd, and Burst just gets it sent on the inside by Saunter Chun. So that is a very clean move. I think much cleaner than we've used to expect from some of the other battles we've had our eyes on there. So good job. Saunter Chun gets up into 3rd. Dylan Burst drops back into 4th. Caruso's worked his way up into 7th. Now he has his eyes on 6th and 5th. It's a defence to the inside of Stowe from Darren Whittington in the Innovate property car, and can't go all the way around the outside. Sometimes you can there at Stowe, but in this case, Caruso's had to wait and then send it down the inside at the next corner using the element of surprise. He just hasn't got the
he's been turned.
Overlap on the exit there. He just hadn't gotten clear, and I think that was fair enough defense from Whittington there.
Yeah, I think Caruso just turned in a bit too early there. But Darren Whittington's actually going to slow down and give up the spot. So a redress there for Darren Whittington, which might actually cost him another spot too, because Caleb Hydes was very close behind Jordan Caruso. And Darren Whittington says, no, I don't want to give up 2 spots if I only need to give up 1. And fires it back down the inside, but Caleb Hydes has got the inside for the next corner. So Darren Whittington does end up losing 2 spots out of that whole exchange.
Here's how it transpired. So expecting Caruso to send it down the inside. Oh, this is the whole exchange from Hanger Straight. Okay. So this is where Caruso tries to go around the outside, can't make that work, but grabs a bit of a later apex, picks up just a little bit more power than Whittington, fakes to the outside before he throws it down the inside, and then he tries to get clear before the circuit comes back around to the right-hand side, and I think he just was there. Yeah, I seeing it again, I can understand why Whittington didn't want to grab the spot back like that.
Yeah, either way, though, it's cost them time. And now Darren Whittington's actually made another mistake, drops it off the road, and that's going to open the door up for Joel Johnson to draw alongside him. Lachlan Manif's just skipped ahead of the 2 cars behind. And there is Darren Whittington falling back behind Joel Johnson. So Johnson moves up into 8th position, Whittington relegated to 9th. Jordan Caruso's fallen back about 4 seconds for Aaron Oliver as well. So Jordan Caruso is going to need to put his head down in this final 8 minutes if he wants a spot inside the top 5.
It has been non-stop action in this 30-minute race with 8 minutes to go, and then we have another 30-minute race with that top 10 inversion coming up after this one. So I think a 30-minute format is working very well at this circuit. There some others it didn't suit as well, and we really liked the 60-minute Enduro format. That turned it on as well, but I think Silverstone Grand Prix, a great circuit for this format.
One who's really dropped back has been Sam Christensen. He was up inside the top 7 or 8 before, but he's now slid back to 13th position behind Chris Donnelly and Jonathan Bykoff. So Sam Christensen's tyres, I would suggest, are well and truly gone. And he is really struggling for pace at the moment. Just having a look at some of the lap times. Again, because it's a track where it's very easy to exceed the track limits, it can be very easy to have your lap time invalidated. The best lap of the race that we've seen, Ethan Grigault, 2 minutes 0.3. Still lapping in the 2-minute bracket. 2 minutes 0.5 was the lap time for Ethan Grigault last time around. So his pace at the front of the field has been very consistent.
I know what this one is. We're going to wind it back a couple laps and see a difference in braking markers between Bykoff and Christensen. And Bykoff sends Christensen off the circuit at Stowe, that is there. Bykoff then ends up also losing a position to, I think it was Chris Donnelly at the time. You see, the two of them just picked different braking markers. Bykoff tries to avoid, but still clouts the back of Christensen and sends him off the circuit.
So Ethan Grigault continues to lap within about a second of his best time of the race, whereas a lot of the other cars on the circuit are going 2 or more seconds slower than they were earlier on. So not only has Ethan Grigault been fast, he's also been very good at keeping the tyres alive for longer than his rivals, and that's paying dividends for him as we get into the back end of this race.
Hyde's defending from Johnson for 7th here. He's made himself potentially a bit vulnerable to an over-under, but he just manages to cover that one off on the exit of Abbey coming towards Bridge.
Darren Whittington, tyres on his car starting to go away as well. 2 minutes 4.8 for him the last time around, which was the slowest lap time of anyone in the top 10.
Hydes is definitely under pressure here. Johnson got slightly better exit. Couldn't get down to the inside. Now he's right underneath the bumper picking up the draft. He's going to give just a little friendly bump on the way into Copse, not away past there. Has Manif ever actually stayed on the track in Copse yet this race?
I don't think so, because he's not got a valid fastest lap time. In fact, he and Chelsea Angelo are the only 2 cars in the field that have not recorded a valid fastest lap time. So in answer to your question, David, no, Lachlan Manif has not stayed on the track through Copse. Or possibly the one occasion that he did stay on the track through Copse, which is when he made nose-to-tail contact with Jordan Caruso. He had an off-track somewhere else, which invalidated his lap time on that occasion.
Could have been a 0x from a bump draft.
Possibly it was, yeah.
We're seeing plenty of here. He could have stayed on the track that time, but bumped another car, and I don't know if in race conditions that's sufficient. But my goodness, we are about to have 2 laps to go, and there are a handful of battles here that you can imagine not being settled until the last corner of the last lap. One of them is on our screen. Hydes chasing Johnson, Whittington, and Manif in tow. We've also got the battle for 3rd. In fact, almost everyone's in a battle. It's easier to say who isn't. That's Ethan Grigault, Jordan Ross, Aaron Oliver, and Jordan Caruso have got a little bit of elbow room, a little bit of space. Everyone else needs to keep close eyes on the car in front and keep close eyes on their mirror. Thankfully, you get a very big mirror in these cars.
And so there's the margin 1st to 2nd. Tommy Saunter-Chun, incidentally, has passed Dylan Burst. So Tommy Saunter-Chun up into position 3. Dylan Burst getting relegated back to 4th. As we see Sam Christensen side by side with Nicholas Scaife on the exit of the final corner. All of these drivers will be commencing their 2nd to last lap this time around.
Gets clear slots back onto the racing line, and Christensen tries to then switch back to the inside, and I think he scared Scaife a little bit, so he gets a better exit. And they are both now being hunted by Peter Clark behind, as well, as they trip over each other and cost themselves a couple seconds here and there. Peter Clark, remember, involved in that incident earlier on the final corner. So he's back in it, has not given up, and he's getting a great tow off the 2 in front down what's kind of the longest straight. He's going to slide down the inside of, that's Christensen, and he might even grab a spot. This is great if you're Nick Scaife looking backwards, seeing those 2 losing time.
And the battle continues between these two as well. It's certainly not done yet. Peter Clark around the outside, which puts him on the inside for the next corner. And Cassandra Hoare will be the next car back, and she won't be too far away from being able to potentially grab a couple of positions as well.
Certainly a couple battered and bruised Audi TCRs out there. I think if Cassandra Hoare's car was a racehorse, you'd be asking the vet to put it down. But starting the final lap is these guys. Aaron Oliver, Jordan Caruso battling over fifth. Caruso has managed to catch Oliver. And then there's also this cracking scrap here, third and fourth, where Dylan Burst refuses to give up on that final podium position with Saunter Chun.
Jordan Caruso was a lot faster than Aaron Oliver that time through. It took a whole second out of Aaron Oliver, so I think that Jordan Caruso's got better tyre life. And here is the battle for the final spot in the top 10. Lachlan Manif and Jonathan Bykoff. Remember, this is for pole for race number 2. Manif again taking that super wide line through turn 1. Too wide though, and he's going to lose the spot. Jonathan Bykoff gets the job done and moves up into 10th position. So right now it's Bykoff who's going to be starting on pole position for race number 2.
Exactly, and I saw we've got Jonathan Bykoff hanging around. We might be able to speak to him after this race. But yeah, you can see then Manif's tyres just giving up, desperation getting the better of him as well. Final step of the podium. This looks like a good exit from Burst in his pursuit of Saunter Chun, and I think if he was a couple of car lengths back, he'd still go for it on the final lap here. Opportunities are running out though to make a move on the final lap. The flagman at the line has the checkered flag ready for our competitors. The first man who's going to get that is definitely going to be Ethan Grigoltz. What a race and a championship he's run through the final corner. Nothing to stop him from taking the win and in doing so, grabbing the championship in the Circuit Excel eSeries.
Yeah, well done to Ethan Grigoltz. So with that result, he will wrap up the championship. He is your Circuit Excel eSeries champion. So big congratulations to Ethan Grigoltz. Really, you have to say that he has been the class of the field. It's not been a perfect season for him. He did have a couple of miserable rounds. Think about the Oran Park round where he got caught up in some drama, and also the Monza round for Ethan Grigoltz was a bit of a shocker as well. But the thing is, those couple of bad results aside, pretty much everything else, he's either been first or, somewhere on the podium at worst. So Ethan Grigoltz very much been the class of the field, and there's no doubt that he's a deserving series champion.
Last couple scraps to the line here. We saw Bykoff manage to hold off Donnelly for the pole position. Yet more damage, but this time after the line for Peter Clark. He lost out to Nicholas Scaife in their battle for 13th there. And
a few running repairs. Yeah, a few running repairs going there required for Peter Clark. Now, this was the battle that came right down to the last lap between Aaron Oliver and Jordan Caruso. And I mentioned that Aaron Oliver seemed like he was out of tyres, and wasn't very difficult for Jordan Caruso to get the job done. And in the end, Aaron Oliver decided not to fight that one too hard and to instead preserve the top 6 position. So, confirmation of your finishing order. Ethan Grigoltz, your race winner by 4.6 seconds. Tommy Saunter Chun in position 3. Back to Dylan Burst, Jordan Caruso, Aaron Oliver, then Joel Johnson, Caleb Hines, Darren Whittington, Jonathan Bykoff completing the top 10.
He had to hold off Chris Donnelly, who finishes in 11th. Lachlan Manif had no tyres and no incident points left at the end of that one, I feel. Gets 12th place. Nicholas Scaife gets 13th. Cassandra Hoare gets 14th. 15th place officially goes to Sam Christensen here. I'm seeing that Peter Clark, I think, cut the corner on the way to the checkered flag and has been dropped down the order a little bit on this one. Ben Bargwanna in 16th, Edward Mitchell 17th. Peter Clark then classified 18th after some time is added after the checkered flag. James Zeitz in 19th, Harry Tompkins in 20th. And the last cars on the lead lap, Ethan Fitzgerald, Isaac Sparks, and Riley Beggs. 1 lap down, Lee Harrison and Chelsea Angelo see the checkered flag, and functional walking wounded in retirements here, Ryan Bell and Dale Carpenter. I'll ask you, Lockie, do you want to have a chat with Jonathan Bykoff?
Oh, why not? Let's bring him on into the commentary box and have a catch up with him. G'day, Jonathan, Lockie Mansell, and David Haynes here. Good news for you as you worked your way up into the top 10 in that race, and that means you get pole position for race 2.
Thanks, Lockie. That was not the way I was expecting to spend my Saturday night, but I'll take that. Big apologies to Sam Christensen there. We had a differential in braking marker, and I didn't expect him to break that early, so apologise to Sam for that. But other than that, it was a nice tight race amongst a bunch of us there at the back end of the top 10, and I was just glad I came on top at the end of it all. Yeah, awesome.
What have you most enjoyed about competing in the Circuit Excel eSeries? Because we've seen that have you done all of the rounds this season?
I had to miss a couple. I actually missed one last Saturday because the pubs were open in Melbourne, so I had to go to a pub. So I missed last Saturdays, unfortunately, but been in most of them since. I'm a out of fringe Excel fan, and I will be doing Excel racing at some point in the next 6 to 12 months. Very excited about the series. I've been to a number of the events, and I'm just a racing fan, so it's been awesome. The guys in here are some of the best. I was racing against Lachlan Beneath there, who we were looking to team up together for the ARG Bathurst race last week. So he's a really good little young racer, and those dudes up the front, like Ethan Grigault. Congrats to him for the championship. That's he's just a class above everyone else. So, but it's really good. There's a lot of sort of non-sim races coming into iRacing and using this as a sort of platform to help their profile and things like that. So it's really awesome to be amongst those guys and and just have some fun on a Saturday night. It's awesome.
So now that the Circuit Excel A-Series is finished, and obviously we're getting back to some degree of normality in terms of normal weekend activities that people do, like going out and socialising, but what's next for you in terms of both sim racing and real-life motorsport competition?
I've been in iRacing for almost 10 years now, and it's an amazing platform if you just want to jump on once a week or a couple times a week, or if you want to dedicate, 8 to 10 hours a day to it. You can, have different angles of how you want to do it. You can use it for preparation for real life racing in terms of learning cars, learning circuits, that kind of thing. So I'll be on I'll be on it till the day I drop. That's for sure. In terms of real life racing, like I said, I'll be looking to do some Excel racing in the next probably 6 to 12 months once sort of things start to free up a bit. Hopefully we can get our V8 supercar up and running later in the year. The calendar for Super 3, the V8 touring cars has only sort of been just announced recently. So that's all still a little bit up in the air in terms of what we can do in our AU Falcon V8 supercar. But just a mad fan of the sport, and really appreciate the opportunity to race with these guys tonight. It's good fun.
Good stuff. And just finally, Jonathan, before we let you go, race 2 starting from pole position, what's your plan of attack?
Don't do what I did to Sam, unfortunately, in that race. So, I'll just try and get a start. And those blokes, the Ethan Grigaults and those guys, they'll catch me pretty quickly. So, I just want to sort of stay out of the way, keep my nose clean, and send it occasionally if I get the opportunity. But I just want to keep it clean. So, yep. Thanks, Lockie. Thanks for the chat. Good to talk to you again.
No worries. Thank you, Jonathan. Go well in race 2. And right now, here on SimSpeed TV, we're going to grab a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the second race for round 10 and the very last race of the Circuit Excel E-Series.
Hi guys, James here, ready to take you for a lap around Silverstone in the Lonsdale Auto Service Centre TCR car. Setting up down the pit straight for cops, slower than you think in these cars. You want to drop it back down in the 4th gear, give up a bit of time on entry. You're going to save a lot on the exit using all of that exit curb. Ease the car over to the right hand side, getting ready for Maggots and Beckett's. We're going to go flat through the first left-hander, dab of the brake to get the car to turn in, down a gear through Maggots, do the same again through Beckett's using all of that inside curb, And then we're going to brake again and patient here, waiting to get on the power to bring you for a good run down Hanger Straight. This Saturday night is going to be the final for the Excel eSeries. Double points up for grabs. Anything can happen. Come and check it out. Saturday night, check out the Excel eSeries Facebook page for more details. And coming into Stowe, hold that brake all the way to the apex to get that car to turn in. Otherwise, you're just going to get a bucket full of understeer and power out using all the road, getting set up for the Vale. Coming into the chicane, tighter than you think, bring it down in the third gear. You do want to hit that apex, unlike that. And then dabber the brake again, and then hold that inside line as long as you can. Patience is key yet again, getting on the power, using all the runoff here to get a good run down the straight. Moving over to the right hand side of the road, getting ready for Abbey. Get hard on the brakes, turn in earlier than you think to pick up all of that inside curb. Using the inside curb again on the right hander, running out wide to the left. Heading under the bridge, it's a small lift for the right hander. Keeping the car over to the right, compromising there to get a better entry to the next left hander. Dabber the brakes, keeping the car over to the right, ready for the left hander. Hard brakes, third gear, pick up all that inside curb, compromise again to keep the car over the left hander for Luffield. Long corner, patience again required here. Getting on the power, using all of that exit curb, and that completes a lap of Silverstone. Come and watch me, James Eates, race the Lonsdale Auto Service Centre TCR car this Saturday night in the Excel eSeries final. Excitement is assured.
Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this .625-mile racetrack. Here's the starting lineup. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford qualifying and Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison.
Georgia, Bill Elliott, straining car number 9 to bring it home. 10-car length. Bill Elliott, two-time winner of the Great American Race. Now the out of fuel, Bill Elliott, and Dale Earnhardt is going to win the Trans-South 500, his second win of 1987.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He got rid of the outside. Both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive.
This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
time to get underway for what will be the final race for the Circuit Excel eSeries. What a fantastic series this has been, and a full credit to the crew at Circuit Excel South Australia for putting this series together, especially the organising committee, which includes Lisa and Matthew Tatani, who've put in
Mitchell
a lot
McGarry
of
as well.
effort in the background, and Mitchell McGarry as well, another one who's put in a lot of effort behind the scenes. So really, really well done to those guys. It's definitely kept us occupied on Saturday nights during the lockdown period. David Haynes and myself, Lachlan Mansell, in commentary with you once again. We do have a warm-up session which will last for another 4.5 minutes, and then it will be time to get underway for our top 10 reverse grid race, which will be the final race for the Circuit Excel eSeries. And we've got some drivers just using this as a bit of an expression session. I think Ben Bargwana and Lachlan Manif, who are both very good mates off the track and have raced each other extensively in Formula Ford.
Did you misbehave on the last day of school for the year? Because I think that's what these guys are doing here.
It looks like they're practicing something on the, what is it, the Isuzu D-Max precision driving team that you see at the East show.
Yeah, I mean, they're practicing something. They're at it again. They're at it again. So this is coming backwards out of the pit lane. Lachlan Manif, I don't know if he's got that in reverse gear, but Ben Bargwana then is nose to nose pushing him along. So he's keeping it in neutral here, but it is rear wheel steering for Manif, which I assume even at these kind of speeds is difficult to keep stable. So he's got quick hands there, as you can see, trying to work his way through the Maggots-Beckett section. Oh, never got too much speed here. And a nice J-turn there from Lachlan Manif gets him facing the correct way in warm-up, but he's found the handbrake to get it back facing rearwards again. That camera angle, I don't know where we were looking. Did you say these two raced Formula Ford together?
Indeed they did, and Lachlan Manif has actually graduated from Formula Ford now, but Ben Bargwana is still racing in the Australian Formula Ford Championship.
They're making a new formula here. It's confusing initially from that helicopter shot to figure out which direction they're actually going. I've just seen Manif use his brakes on the way into Stowe to slow down the combination. So I think this is a circumstance where Bargwana has to use the throttle, but Manif is the brakes of the combination, the two-carriage train. This is a level of teamwork that I don't think we're used to seeing. Jordan Caruso has joined them as a spectator. Is he going to make it a three-car train, or is he just trying to navigate the train wreck? I think he's just rubbernecking the incident. Oh, he's nearly gotten involved, but he's picked the correct way to avoid that wreck. So that's keeping his reaction times fresh in this warm-up session for the final race of the season that, as you can see, is about 1 minute 15 seconds away. His teammate, Ethan Grigault, I think is taking warm-up a little bit more seriously, despite having already wrapped the championship.
Yeah, well, it's the sign of a dedicated racer, isn't it? Someone who always applies themselves to getting the absolute maximum out of themselves and out of the machinery.
You're thanking our organising committee for this series. Also got the rolling banners in the top left-hand side as some of the sponsors of the eSeries, and that was Mish's Mechanical. You had Yardstick Landscapes, of course, as the sort of title sponsor and window banner sponsor, Shannon's Insurance. We got You Pull It and Mr. Dusty Media, who put together some of the highlight clips that I had a look at, as well as sort of semi-interviewing you and I and putting together some of that content. So that was good stuff from Mr. Dusty Media. Of course, got to talk about SA Motorsports Tyres sponsoring one of our prizes. Dylan Burst, very, very close there. Other minor additional sponsors was Evolution Crash Repairs, GH Haulage, Federal Tyres, and Premium Auto Detailers. So all of them putting together the entertainment that we have so much enjoyed over the last 10 or so weeks, Lockie.
Oh, and that brings to an end the warm-up session for race number 2 for round 10 of the Circuit Excel eSeries. It's time to get serious now. Jonathan Bykoff on pole position ahead of Darren Whittington, back then to Caleb Hines, Joel Johnson, and then Aaron Oliver, Jordan Caruso, Dylan Burst, Tommy Saunter, Jordan Ross, and Ethan Grigault completing your top 10 on the grid.
Grigault managed to do the double before starting from 10th on the grid. So we'll see here. And 11th is going to be Chris Donnelly, Lachlan Manif in 12th, Nicholas Scaife 13th, Cassandra Hoare is going to start out of 14th place, Sam Christensen in 15th, Ben Bargwanna in 16th, Edward Mitchell 17th, Peter Clark all the way back in 18th. We'll see the rest very quickly because they are all on the grid. The lights are on now, Lockie. Green flag.
Underway, it's final race of the season for the Circuit XLA Series. Jonathan Bykoff on pole position and takes the early race lead as they head into turn number 1, Copse Corner. Slotting in behind him is Darren Whittington. A look at the start from Joel Johnson around the outside. Moves straight up into second position on this opening lap with a brilliant reaction time. Caleb Hines in there as well. Here comes Aaron Oliver. They're going to go 3 wide, heading into Maggots and Beckett's, and it's Aaron Oliver who gets a bit of a tap in the door, which sends the Penrite Audi TCR car skating off the road. He manages to get back onto the track just ahead of Jordan Caruso, who's ahead of his Evolution Racing teammate in Ethan Grigault, and then Tommy Saunter right behind the 2 Evolution Racing team entries.
Always an eventful start. We're riding on board with Manif, who's picked up one more spot. He's looking ahead. He's going to make a dive down the inside of Stowe, making great advantage of the confusion and the traffic. Try and grab himself another spot. Manif's always been really strong off the start of these races. It's keeping it all together for the remaining 28 minutes. We'll see how he does there. Still side by side with himself and Tommy Saunter-Chun as Grigault charges up through the field as well.
Jonathan Bykoff continuing to hold on to the lead ahead of Joel Johnson. Then it's Darren Whittington, followed by Caleb Hines. Jonathan Bykoff doing well to hold out those attacking cars behind. Whittington looking up the inside of Johnson, but loses some time on the exit of that corner, and that's going to allow Hines up the inside. So in trying to gain a position, Darren Whittington is instead potentially going to lose one, or maybe not, because he'll still be on the inside for the next left-hander. Caleb Hines gets turned around. One of the Evolution Racing cars made contact with him in the door as he was spinning off the circuit. And a big winner out of that was Dylan Burst. I think he managed to gain a couple of positions. Caleb Hines still trying to gather it up. Nicholas Scaife there with a witch's hat for company on the front of his car, which finally gets shuffled off to the outside of the track.
Chelsea Angelo trying to make improvements on a race 1 that didn't go her way. Just saw a little bit of a bump draft there, I think, to Cassandra Hoare. Indeed, the two of them trying to move up through the field.
Good start for Chelsea Angelo, already up to 18th position after starting near the back of the field. Here's some replays just to explain a bit of what happened. So, Caleb Hines was down the inside of Darren Whittington. Jordan Ross was up on the outside. They were 3 wide. That was Jordan Caruso as well, who got into the side. So it was actually Jordan Caruso who made the contact that saw Caleb Hines going spinning off the circuit.
And then he copped another tap there. So,
and there was that witch's hat. Yep.
It was along just a short ride, but eventually it had to depart. But yeah, Caleb Hines, an absolute punching bag. 3 corners in a row there. A real shame for him because he raced great in race 1 to move his way up a couple spots, and then hasn't gone so hot on the start of race 1. Darren Whittington doing the lawn care there and not finding the circuit or the runoff, neither of which, just not getting the drive off Copse Corner.
And Jordan Ross able to take full advantage of that to move up a couple of spots. He's now inside the top 3, Jordan Ross, which I would argue that out of all of the drivers in the field, Jordan Ross is probably the one who, on a consistent week-in, week-out basis, has probably been the one who looks most likely able to challenge Ethan Grigol. He had a couple of bad results earlier in the season, which compromised his final championship position, but in terms of speed, Jordan Ross has been one of the quickest drivers in the field, and he is in a good position inside the top 3, within a second of the race leader, with plenty of time to make up those final couple of positions.
Flying laps in the books here, and the Evolution cars are bullying their way past Darren Whittington here. It is Grigol leading Caruso of those two at the moment. And Aaron Oliver says, I want to join that party as well. So a lot of positions lost there in quick succession for Whittington. He's now got his friend and teammate of Tommy Saunter-Chun for company here as well, the two Innovate property cars.
Joel Johnson and Jordan Ross battling for position. So Ross on the attack here. Jonathan Bykoff still leading this race. Now, after starting from pole position, he's done a good job to keep some of the faster cars at bay so far, but with the likes of Jordan Ross, Dylan Burst, and also Ethan Grigol rapidly approaching, it'll be interesting to see just how much longer Jonathan Bykoff can hold on as Jordan Ross slices down the inside of Joel Johnson, and Johnson did not argue that position whatsoever. He left the door open, and it was a fairly easy move down the inside for Jordan Ross. Lachlan Manif in 10th position, just behind Darren Whittington. Whittington not too far away from his teammate Tommy Saunter-Chun. Manif has been the aggressor tonight, and he's going to make a move down the inside of Darren Whittington up into 9th position.
Crossback's not fully on, so we take our eyes to the lead of the race here. Jordan Ross is, I think, trying to move his way to the lead before Ethan Grigol can get there, but Bykoff has not put a foot wrong, not made a mistake just yet. But what about Ross looking to the inside there? It's not going to stick. Bykoff backing the field up and also then backing Ross towards Ethan Grigol. Still got Joel Johnson and Dylan Burst between those two. About the run towards Cops, Jordan Ross is clearly looking to get this move done as soon as he possibly can. I think he fancies taking a race win to round out the championship. Surgical to the inside of Cops.
Yeah, nice move there for Jordan Ross, and he now has the advantage of some clear track where his main rival, Ethan Grigol, still has a fair bit of traffic to contend with. It's still on for positions 2, 3, and 4. Dylan Burst there trying to get down the inside of Joel Johnson, and all that has done is checked up those cars behind, and it's allowed not only Ethan Grigol, but also his Evolution Racing teammate, Jordan Caruso, to close in. So the cars from 2nd down to 6th, nose to tail. Jordan Ross starting to skip away in the lead of the race.
Bykoff, bit of cork in the bottle here. Has going to have the inside potentially to the next corner as Johnson then slices back under the down the inside, and Dylan Burst makes it 3 wide. How on earth does that not end in catastrophe? Dylan Burst moves himself from 4th to 2nd.
And Ethan Grigol being passed for position by his teammate Jordan Caruso as well. The two Evolution Racing teammates are side by side, heading into the next left-hander. Good battle a bit further back as well. Ben Bargwana looking to try and salvage a result from what has been a pretty tough weekend. Nicholas Scaife getting half rotated in the background there as well. Oh, Joel Johnson getting shuffled back. Both of the Evolution Racing cars attack, and they're going to line up Shane Bykoff for an overtaking manoeuvre as well. Ethan Grigol moves up into the top 3, basically gaining 2 positions in the space of 2 corners.
Well, we've seen when the timing is right and you can get all your ducks in a row, you can pick off a couple of cars at once like Burst did and like Grigol has just done. Imagine the next customer is Jordan Caruso, sniffing around for a possible move here. Bykoff hasn't really put a foot wrong, he just doesn't quite have the pace, quite have the car turn in of some of these guys who are real TCR experts. And that's very, very evident with these fast changes of direction through this S's complex. It is a key characteristic of the opening part of the lap here at Silverstone. What an exit from Caruso, just trying to line up Bikoff, who's defending all to the right-hand side of the circuit. Just when he thinks the move's done, he's going to try and chuck it down the inside. Bit of hip and shoulder, and that moves Bikoff off.
He needed to use a bit of muscle to get the job done there, Jordan Caruso, but Jonathan Bikoff, who started this race from pole position, did a good job to hold on to the lead for as long as he did, but now starting to get shuffled backwards as the faster cars make their presence felt. Ben Bargwanna battling it out with Chelsea Angelo. Those cars running in positions 12 and 13. James Zeitz in 14th position, as we say, Aaron Oliver and Tommy Saunter-Chun side by side. And it's Aaron Oliver who gains the position there on Tommy Saunter-Chun, moving up into 7th spot. Saunter-Chun looking to try and fight back. Oh, very close there. Aaron Oliver just manages to hold on to it.
Yeah, bit of space given through bridge, a very committed corner. He's going to throw it back down the inside. Is Saunter-Chun. He's got the nose in front and gets clear before the track switches back in the opposite direction. You can see Manif in the background, lurking, trying to get in on this, trying to loosen up Aaron Oliver a little bit as well. So he's going to get a solid exit as he approaches his favourite corner, turn 1 Cops.
Aaron Oliver well and truly in the box seat to win that SA Motorsport Tyres prize of a couple of Federal Control tyres for his real-life Hyundai Excel. Really just needs to bring it home from here, Aaron Oliver. And for the first time tonight, we're hearing that Lachlan Manif has actually punched out a lap time that has been deemed legitimate. So no track limits exceeded for Lachlan Manif, in contrast to some of the driving that we've seen from him throughout the evening.
Certainly a lot cleaner than what we saw in the warm-up from him as well. It clearly hasn't hurt his focus. Angelo, though, moving up spots in this race, our biggest mover from basically the back of the grid. She's up 11 into 13th place and looking for 12th place in this battle with Ben Bargwanna. Harrison and Zeitz have just swapped places behind as well. So there's 4 cars in a great little scrap here that unfortunately I feel is maybe being a little bit held up by Ben Bargwanna. Angelo still getting closer and really closing in on the brakes there. No troubles making the apex of the corner. So even though it's a fixed setup for all of our drivers, they're all running the same tire pressures, starting pressures, the suspension, this, that, and whatever. They still have the ability to adjust the brake bias from the cockpit of the car. And you definitely see in some places, some drivers just have a bit more confidence, a bit more rotation, and less understeer in places.
And once again, tyre conservation is very much a factor, and it's something that we will start to see towards the end of the race based on lap times as to which drivers have done the best job of preserving their tyres. Jonathan Bikoff now trying to hold out Tommy Saunter-Chun, who goes for a big outside move through turn number 1. And I reckon Saunter-Chun's going to get the spot here, so that's another spot lost for Jonathan Bikoff as they head through Maggots and Beckett's.
And there's a couple more lining up for it as well. Aaron Oliver there, and hello to Stephen Oliver, who I'm sure is watching. But for second place, Burst is under pressure from Greg Galt. Greg Galt's going to have the inside for Stowe corner. That's the place he's made a couple of moves. You just cannot stop him on the inside of that corner. Crossing it back, Dylan Burst gives him the Morse code, but I don't think that's enough. And he can't brake later than Greg Galt after that either. So I think Greg Galt's moved himself into second place. It's only 2 seconds up the road to Jordan Ross, who is leading. I'm sure Ross wanted all of those other drivers to just hold up Grigault a little bit longer. There's only 16 minutes left, but I think that's plenty for Grigault to make the charge and try and go 2 for 2 to round out the season.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to keep an eye on their respective lap times, but that's basically the equation. Nathan Grigault has just over 16 minutes to make up 2 seconds on Jordan Ross if he wants to clean sweep at the weekend. We have seen him take clean sweeps in the series before, Nathan Grigault, where he's won race 1 and then come from 10th on the grid to win race 2 as well. And Nathan Grigault does hold the fastest lap of the race as well, 2 minutes, 0.6 seconds. And he took 0.3 of a second out of Jordan Ross on at the last lap, even though he had to pass a car. So Nathan Grigault's definitely got the pace, but once he catches Jordan Ross, he will have to do plenty of work to get past Jordan Ross. I'm sure that Ross won't give up the race lead that easily, as we see Jonathan Bykoff now coming under pressure from Aaron Oliver, who goes to the inside at turn 1. Cobbs very wide on the exit. In fact, Lachlan Manif was actually the one who stayed on the track most out of those 3 cars through there. Into Maggots and Beckett's they go. Jonathan Bykoff trying to get back down the inside of Aaron Oliver. The 2 cars rub panels. Jonathan Bykoff will have the inside for the next right-hander, but the outside for the left-hander, which leads onto the hanger straight. And here comes Lachlan Manif, looking to take advantage of the slipstream from Aaron Oliver's Penrite Audi TCR car. And Sam Christensen making this a 4-way battle as well. Look at this 3 wide down into the right-hander at Stowe. Who's going to be latest on the brakes through here?
I think Manif's just positioned himself
Yep.
correctly to go around the outside of Bykoff, have the inside of the next corner, and poor Aaron Oliver was the meat in the sandwich coming into Stowe, and it just doesn't quite appear to have worked out for him. Manif's gone up 2 spots as it checks up all of them to bring Christensen and Whittington into the picture as well.
Really good racing between these drivers. Jonathan Bykoff just hasn't quite had the pace to keep some of those faster cars at bay, but he still put up a pretty robust fight with all of them. He's made them work to get past, as here comes Christensen and also Darren Whittington to the outside of Jonathan Bykoff. Christensen get hung out off the racing line there. Can he make the move stick? Oh, he's done well there, Christensen, because he will be on the inside for the final corner. It took about 5 corners to get that passing manoeuvre done, but he's finally completed it as they head back onto the main straight.
No love lost between Christensen and Bykoff last race, if you remember. So, yeah, I'm sure Bykoff's going to be a little more careful picking his braking markers driving behind Christensen this time around.
Watch out for Darren Whittington as well. We saw that he was very quick in the early stages of race 1, but drops back a bit towards the end and ultimately ended up sustaining a bit of damage and falling down the order. Just a bit of a check as well on the lap times for our race leaders. 201.2 for Jordan Ross last time around compared to a 201.1 for Ethan Grigault. So only a 1/10 of a second gained by Ethan Grigault on the previous lap. So Jordan Ross out in front has responded when he's found out that Ethan Grigault's moved up into second position. So 12.5 minutes to go. Ethan Grigault is still going to have a fight on his hands. So we look back to Chelsea Angelo, unfortunately getting turned around and turfed off the racetrack a bit further down the order.
Yeah, she then went on to lose these spots to Hydes, Donnelly and Zeitz as well. So not sure she's going to be particularly happy about that one. It did look like the front left might have picked up a bit of damage from that as well, and that wouldn't have helped it either. So Angelo losing out a whole handful of positions, which I'm not going to say was her fault because it didn't quite look like it. She might have also picked up a little bit of damage as well, just to add insult to that injury there. She has caught up to the back of this pack, so we'll see. Maybe the damage isn't as bad as it initially looked. In fact, if anything, Hydes has probably got more damage. The front of that car has been hit every which way, and I think half of it was on lap 1.
Don't think there's many straight panels left on that.
Donnelly gets some of the bumper cars as well.
So Caleb Hyde sporting a fair bit of damage. Chelsea Angelo getting absolutely belted from pillar to post in a couple of separate incidents on that previous lap. At the front, Ethan Grigault continuing to chip away at Jordan Ross. 201.7 for Ross plays, a 201.3 for Grigault, 1.4 seconds. The margin first to second. Aaron Oliver now having to fend off Lachlan Manif in the battle for positions 7 and 8. So, in fact, Aaron Oliver got back ahead of Lachlan Manif because Manif had passed Oliver in the previous passage of play where we had the multi-car battle, but the Penrite TCR car has managed to get back in front.
So still a great battle behind that. Ben Bargwanna's been trying to range up on this one. Christensen, Whittington, Bykoff and Bargwanna together for this particular battle. Interestingly for Manif, extending his line a little bit, the exit of that corner is 100% fair game and doesn't incur an incident point. So at Cops, maybe he was playing with the limits a little bit at the far end of the circuit. Club and Vale was all fair game there. Defensive line from Whittington with Bykoff and Bargwanna behind. Bargwanna's gotten very close. And also using all of the track and then some just to try and get an alternative line, try and get a run at Bykoff. Because, of course, Bykoff also then picks up the slipstream off the driver in front, and that makes it hard for Bargwanna to get a run and make a move forward in that pack. Lead is underneath a second, Lockie.
Yeah, so Ethan Grigault took another half second out of Jordan Ross last time through, so 9/10 for second, separating those two cars. Bykoff's been shuffled back to 11th position by Darren Whittington. Here comes a fired-up Ben Bargwanna, the championship now out of his grasp, but he'd like to at least come from near the back of the pack to finish in the top 10 to round out the season.
Yeah, he made a look earlier in the lap there, and it just didn't stick. Put him offline, lost him a bit of time through the S's. Here's Bykoff on the fight back against Whittington. Good move down the inside. Is he going to get clear? He just can't quite seal the move yet. He's going to try and force Whittington out, but Whittington, no shrinking violet, is not going to give up on this and might just hold off that position in that battle. Lee Harrison joins the fight, so suddenly he's found a bit of performance in the dying phases of this race, and you can see who's better at looking after their tyres, because this is a fight back from Bykoff, who spent the first 20 minutes of the race just losing positions. Now he fights his way down the inside ambitiously, maybe too ambitiously on Harrison. Ben Bargwanna picks off the both of them.
Yep, so Whittington and Bykoff making contacts. Both of them give up the positions to Bargwanna, and Lee Harrison will be the big beneficiary out of all of this. He's going to move up to 10th position as he slices his way down the inside of Ben Bargwanna.
Whittington doesn't fully return the favour in getting that position back off Bykoff, but at the lead, 4 laps to go. They've just started. Ross has been hunted by Grigault. Once it was underneath a second, you knew Grigault was going to be picking up the slipstream down the hangar straight, down the pit straight, and all of those places. Well, now that it's only 3/10, Grigault is going to be tough to shake for Jordan Ross. And it certainly plays well to Ethan Grigault, who wasn't able to look after the tyres at Phillip Island, but I think has since very much learned it. And he's been strong in the closing phases of these sprint races.
The other one who's not out of this is Jordan Caruso. He's only 2.5 seconds off the lead, and he has actually been lapping a bit quicker than Jordan Ross. So if Ross can keep Grigault at bay, then Caruso could potentially catch up to the two of them and make it a three-way fight for the win in the final 6.5 minutes.
I mean, last race of the season, you cannot imagine Jordan Ross rolling over and giving up the lead easily. If he can fight for anything, he can fight for this win. So I imagine that this isn't going to be an easy move for Greg Galt, even if it's looked easy for him to move through the field up until this point and range in on the lead. Ross has those fender flares on the Audi, and I'm sure he'll want to make it even wider than that. Three laps to go when they come out of this corner. 5 minutes and some left. And you saw, looking backwards from Jordan Ross, there's only a car length, 2 car lengths in it now for the lead. Plenty of time for Greg Galt to size up the move, try and make it stick.
So 202.1 for Jordan Ross that time around, a 201.9 for Ethan Grigalt, 202.0 for Jordan Caruso. He continues just to chip away. Can Jordan Ross hold out the Panther Race Fuels Evolution Racing Team entry for 3 laps, or will Ethan Grigalt find a way past? Like you said, David, the slipstream is very powerful, so if Ethan Grigalt can get a tow, it's going to be hard for Jordan Ross to defend with 3 laps remaining, and particularly here coming down the Hanger Straight and into Stowe. If you can get a good tow like Ethan Grigalt is at the moment, it can be a prime overtaking opportunity, and the margin is nothing now, first to second. Ethan Grigalt is right with Jordan Ross, and it's only going to take one slight slip up from Jordan Ross, and Ethan Grigalt will be through. He looks to the outside. Jordan Ross slows it up on the apex to make sure that Grigalt's not able to do the switchback manoeuvre. What a great finish we're set for here in the final race of the Circuit Excel eSeries.
From this rear-facing view, you can see Jordan Caruso licking his lips as Ross takes the defensive lines, parks it here, there, and everywhere, and refuses to give up the lead to Ethan Grigalt without a fight. Gap to the lead, you called it out earlier. Caruso was 2.5 seconds off the lead. He's now 1.8 seconds off the lead and closing. As through these slow sections here, is there going to be a dive from Grigalt? Not here, not yet, and you can see him being held up by Jordan Ross, taking the narrow entry to all of these corners, not opening up a place or an opportunity for Grigalt to be able to throw a dive.
So 2 laps to go. Grigalt's right there, and you're 100% spot on. Jordan Caruso is catching the 2 race leaders hand over fist at the moment. So 3.5 minutes remaining. It will be 2 laps to go. 2 minute 2.6 for Jordan Ross and Ethan Grigalt. 2 minutes 1.9 for Jordan Caruso. So he was 0.7 of a second quicker on that lap. Jordan Caruso was cruising up to the back of these two as they fight with one another for the race lead.
It's going to be so close at the end of the Hanger Straight here. You have to imagine that Grigalt is coming through, just trying to absolutely pinpoint perfect set up that exit. It's about equal between the two of them, but you can see Jordan Ross just tending towards the middle of the track. Is there going to be a dive from Grigalt? Surely he thinks about it again. Not close enough. This is where they fought a lap ago, and Ross, I think, has learned where to park it, at least for the moment.
So it's setting up for a grandstand finish for the final race of the season. What a fitting end to a season that has produced some thrilling racing right throughout, that we finish it off with a battle for the lead and for the win that's going to come down the very last lap. The championship might be decided. There are still bragging rights on the line for this final race of the Circuit Excel eSeries. Jordan Ross driving with really, really impressive precision at the moment, ensuring that he doesn't leave the door even slightly ajar for Ethan Grigalt to send one down the inside. Can Jordan Caruso catch them? Can Jordan Caruso challenge them? And what factors will the lap traffic play as well? We've got a couple of back markers that the race leaders potentially going to have to negotiate on the final lap. Here they come out of the last corner for the second to last time. 1 lap to go in the Circuit Excel eSeries, and it's Jordan Ross and Ethan Grigault and Jordan Caruso who are going to be fighting it out for victory. 1.2 seconds separating our top 3.
I think Caruso's gotten close enough. He's starting to pick up the toe off Grigault, but he's not close enough on the final lap unless there is a contact or it absolutely gets parked by Jordan Ross, and that might be what he has to do in places if he's going to take home the win, keep Grigault behind him. Riley Beggs is the driver just up the road from them, and if it falls in the right place, Ross might pick up a toe off Riley Beggs that helps him defend, and he does indeed pick up just a little bit of a slipstream there. Grigault, though, in the second half of the hangar straight, is going to get closer, but not enough to throw a move into Stowe, where in the second half of the lap is Grigault going to find an opening. A bit wide, one tire on the grass trying to get the drive out of Stowe doesn't help.
And Jordan Caruso was right there now. He's within 9/10 of a second of the race lead and continuing to close on these two. Will he get close enough, quickly enough, though, to be able to send one down the inside of his teammate? Not quite sure that he will. Ethan Grigault running out of places to overtake Jordan Ross, who you have to say has handled this pressure from our champion-elect superbly. Only a few overtaking opportunities remaining, really, for Ethan Grigault if he wants to try and send one down the inside.
Ross knows where to cover it off. He's done it already. He doesn't take the full wide entry here and pushes just a little wide of the apex. Grigault is going to try everything and anything, but now might need to worry about Caruso behind.
Only a couple of right-handers left to go for Jordan Ross. He may not win the championship this season, but he certainly has been one of the fastest drivers in the series, and he is going to finish things off with a race win in the season finale for the Circuit Excel eSeries at Silverstone, ahead of the Evolution Racing teammates. Ethan Grigault, our newly crowned series champion, in second position, with Jordan Caruso in third. Only 0.6 of a second separating the top 3 there at the end.
Ben Bargwanna, 3 wheels on his wagon, is trying to limp that towards the end. He's just lost a handful of positions, as Donnelly is also off the circuit. And there were quite a few other battles we just could not keep an eye on. Chris Donnelly is working on a cone collection there. Whittington and Hydes are going to battle to the line, and Angelo has outfoxed all of them.
Yeah, so Chelsea Angelo from the rear of the grid to 12th position. Good way for her to finish off the season. So we're hearing that there are actually quite a few passes on the last lap a bit further down the order. Obviously, we didn't really get to see it because we were too busy focusing on the battle for the race lead and the win, but there were quite a few passing manoeuvres. Now, here's Ben Bargwanna. So this is the second to last lap. So Lachlan Manif was battling it out with Sam Christensen. Ben Bargwanna had actually worked his way up into the top 10. Manif runs wide. Christensen gets through. So does Ben Bargwanna. Lee Harrison's in there as well. So Christensen drops back 3 positions in that manoeuvre there, but we probably have to keep watching to find out exactly what has happened to Ben Bargwanna. So we'll stay with this replay. This is actually coming up to start what will be the final lap of the race. And by the sounds of it, it was a pretty eventful final lap as well. So worth us sticking with this just to find out exactly what happened.
Yeah, indeed. We know how it ends, but there was just too many good battles going on at once. Bargwanna borrows his friend's Lachlan Manif's line through turn 1 on the final lap. 2 of them jockeying around through Beckett's complex. Know how critical the run onto the hangar straight can be for trying to make a move, and you can see Harrison's also closing in on this. Bargwanna weaves a little bit, trying to break the draft to Manif.
Manif looking to the inside of Bargwanna. Do not tell me, please do not tell me that Manif has taken Bargwanna out on the last lap. I've got a bad feeling about this because here comes Manif. Bargwanna defending to the inside. Lee Harrison is closing up on the pair of them, so It's essentially a four-way battle for position at this point. So it must be very soon that the incident happened, because we saw how much Bargwanna was limping. So Manif's right behind. There's Lee Harrison. Here's Manif down the inside. There's a bit of contact there. Bargwanna runs wide. So it's actually as Bargwanna's come back onto the racetrack after just being rubbed a little bit by Lachlan Manif, that he's come back on. He's had contact with Lee Harrison, and that's what's carted him into the wall and caused all of that damage.
And then to the line here comes Harrison and Christensen. Christensen parking at every single available opportunity. Wide line for the late apex to pick up the throttle early for Harrison, but doesn't appear like it quite worked out there. So real shame for Ben Bargwanna that in his fight with Manif just gets a little offline, bounces back onto the circuit and gets turned.
Indeed. But anyway, here's confirmation of our final race results. Jordan Ross, your winner, ahead of Ethan Grigault, Jordan Caruso back to Dylan Burst, Tommy Saunter-Chun, Joel Johnson, Aaron Oliver, Lachlan Manif, Sam Christensen, and Lee Harrison rounding out the top 10.
Jonathan Bykoff fell from pole position to finish in 11th. Chelsea Angelo was a yo-yo all race long, coming from deep in the field towards the top 10, dropping back and then coming back to 12th, ahead of James Zeitz. 14th was Chris Donnelly, who we saw collecting some of the traffic cones on the final lap. Cassandra Hall gets 15th, Peter Clark in 16th, Ethan Fitzgerald 17th, and 18th place. Ben Bargwanna limping that car home with a lot of damage. Ryan Bell in 19th. Darren Whittington in 20th. 21st went to Caleb Hydes, who was also a bit of a punching bag all race long. Nicholas Scaife 22nd. Isaac Sparks, the last car on the lead lap. And everyone finishing, but Riley Beggs 1 lap down and Edward Mitchell 2 laps off the lead.
So that completes the Circuit Excel eSeries presented by Shannon's Insurance season. We've thoroughly enjoyed bringing you all of the action over the last 10 weeks and some fantastic races in both sprint and endurance formats that we have seen as well. David Haynes has been joining me in commentary throughout the season, and you've been watching it all right here on SimSpeed TV. On behalf of the entire crew, this is Lockie Mansell signing off. See you next time. Bye for now.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up to him! Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive!
This is it!
This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?